One doesn't realize it's happening, not at first. 40 doesn't come in with a bang, it whispers quietly. It creeps in through little things, the mirror, the silence in a room, the way people start using more respectful terms of address. And one day, looking around, wishing someone had told you. The years stack up like quiet pages turning in a book. 50 arrives with its questions, its shifting foundations, its new landscapes of possibility. Then suddenly there you are, at 60, standing at the threshold of a life you recognize but somehow hadn't anticipated. Not exactly this way. 60 feels like standing on a high point, able to see in both directions. The path that brought you here, winding and unpredictable. And the path ahead, shorter perhaps, but somehow clearer. The view changes everything. You see, no one tells women that their 60s aren't about figuring things out. They're about letting go. Letting go of the version who kept trying to be perfect. Letting go of the timelines, the comparisons, the guilt. No one tells them that freedom doesn't look like success. It looks like peace. No one mentions how the world treats women differently at this age. How they become simultaneously more invisible and more themselves than ever before. How shop assistants might look past them, but grandchildren look right into them, seeing something essential that younger eyes miss. There's no warning about the strange grief that comes with realizing one has lived more years than one has left. How mornings bring a peculiar urgency, a need to sort what matters from what doesn't. How regrets sometimes get cataloged when what should be happening is a celebration of survival. And there's certainly no preparation for the paradox, caring less about others' opinions while caring more deeply about the world itself. How patience thins for small talk but deepens for genuine connection. How time becomes both more precious and more deliberately shared. Most of all, no one tells women that 60 isn't old. It's just no longer young. It's standing in the afternoon light, knowing both the morning's brightness and the evening's approaching shadow, and finding beauty in that particular illumination that happens nowhere else in the day. Here's what women should know. The body isn't betraying them. It's evolving with them. That weight, that exhaustion, it's not failure. It's the body begging to stop being punished for aging. Give it rest. Give it grace. It's not broken. It's becoming. Too many spend decades at war with their bodies, critiquing every angle, every softness, every sign of time's passage, exercising not for strength or joy, but for erasure, to erase calories, to erase years, to erase the natural progression of a woman's form through life. The truth is this, the body keeps score. It remembers every crash diet, every disparaging thought, every time exhaustion was pushed through to prove worth. And eventually it will demand reconciliation, not through punishment but through necessity. At 60, the understanding finally comes. The body isn't the enemy. It's the only home one ever truly has, the vessel that carries through life's stormy waters and sun-drenched days alike. It deserves alliance, not antagonism. Move because it feels good to move. Rest because rest is needed. Eat foods that bring both pleasure and nourishment. Touch the face with kindness when applying cream at night. Those lines tell a story. They aren't flaws to be fixed, but evidence of living, laughing, squinting into bright sunlight, and surviving hard seasons. This body, with its scars and softness and strength, it's the only one anyone gets. The sooner it's befriended, the more life is actually lived. Friendships change, and that's okay. Not everyone stays. Some people fade, and others, they're outgrown. What matters isn't the quantity, it's the quality. At 60, a woman should protect her peace like its currency, because it is. Circles tighten and expand throughout life, sometimes painfully, sometimes with relief. The friends from one's 20s won't necessarily be the ones holding a hand at 60, and there's wisdom in that natural selection. Some friendships are seasons, teaching something essential before gracefully concluding. Others are lifelines, surprising in their endurance. The childhood friend who still calls every birthday, the work colleague who became family, the neighbor who showed up with soup during that terrible winter when everything fell apart. What becomes clear is that friendship at 60 requires intentionality. The days of circumstantial friendships, built around carpools or office proximity, give way to chosen connections. Who energizes rather than depletes? Who sees clearly? Who makes space for growth rather than insisting on stasis? And here's the surprising gift. At 60, there's finally courage enough to seek those connections, to reach out to that interesting woman at book club, to reconnect with the college friend who drifted away during the busy parenting years, to build communities around shared values rather than shared circumstances. Time becomes precious, tolerance for falseness diminishes, and appetite for authentic connection grows. This evolution should be trusted. It's not loss, it's refinement. There isn't time to stay silent anymore. What needs saying should be said. Leave when it's time to leave. Ask for what's wanted. The longer one waits to be seen, the more invisible one becomes. Not because of lacking value, but because the world reflects what's tolerated. Countless women spend decades swallowing words, smoothing over conflicts, making themselves smaller to make others comfortable, taking the photo instead of being in it, planning the celebration instead of accepting the toast. Then one ordinary Tuesday, the realization hits. The supply of Tuesdays is finite. The luxury of endless postponement is gone. If not now, when? If not me, who? Start speaking up. Not harshly, but honestly. No, I don't want to host this year. Yes, I need help with this. That comment hurt me. This relationship isn't working anymore. I've changed my mind. I have something important to say. The world doesn't collapse. Some people get uncomfortable, certainly. Some relationships shift or end, but others deepen. And most importantly, something essential is reclaimed. Voice, boundaries, presence in one's own life. At 60, invisibility is a choice, not an inevitability. Choose visibility. Choose to name needs. Choose to stand in truth, even when the voice shakes. The alternative, a life of silent accommodation, costs too much. Women are conditioned to be caretakers, peacemakers, the emotional support beams of every structure they inhabit. But at 60, they earn the right to be more than scaffolding. They get to be the architects of their remaining decades. Money isn't just about retirement calculators, it's about power and choices. Women must take control of their financial lives even when it terrifies them. Understanding worth isn't just metaphorical. If only someone had delivered this message at 30. Learn this, master this. Your financial independence is not optional. Too many women outsource financial decisions to partners or avoid the topic altogether, finding it unseemly or intimidating. They inherit their mother's discomfort with money matters without inheriting their economic context. The result? Vulnerability, constraint, dependency that outlives marriages and jobs. At 60, facing financial reality with clear eyes becomes essential. Seeking knowledge, asking questions, making hard choices. It's never too late to take control, but starting sooner brings immeasurable benefits. Know where the money goes. Understand investments. Have accounts in your name. Save something, anything, even when it seems impossible. Financial literacy isn't greedy. It's essential armor in a world that still undervalues women's work and time. Because money, distasteful as the topic might seem, translates directly to freedom. Freedom to leave what doesn't serve. Freedom to help others without self-martyrdom. Freedom to age on one's own terms. Turning 60 isn't the end of youth for a woman. It's the beginning of her authentic self. The real person. The one who's lived, hurt, loved, fallen apart, and is still standing. And if she's still here, she's not late. She's right on time. There's a clarity that comes with this decade, a sorting of wheat from chaff. The difference becomes apparent between what society taught women to want and what they actually desire, between relationships that deplete and those that sustain, between pursuits that matter in the long accounting and those that simply fill space. The question shifts from what will they think to what will I think looking back on this choice. It changes everything. The mask-wearing gets exhausting. The people-pleasing loses its reward. The pretending, being fine when not, agreeing when disagreeing, claiming capability when overwhelmed, it all starts to feel like an ill-fitting garment finally ready to be shed. This is the decade when many women begin to breathe differently, more deeply, more deliberately, as if, after a lifetime of shallow breathing aimed at making themselves smaller, they finally remember how to fill their lungs completely. There's sorrow in 60, certainly. Losses accumulate, bodies change, the world speeds up, while sometimes the individual slows down. But there's also a curious liberation, an unburdening, a return to some essential self that got mislaid along the way. If no one else has said it, let it be said now. Women are allowed to change. They're allowed to choose themselves. And it's not too late. It never was. The story being lived isn't the only possible narrative. The patterns aren't permanent. The rules weren't actually rules. They were suggestions, often made by people with limited vision or vested interests in compliance. At 60, the understanding finally comes. Each person is the author of their own story. There's still time to revise, reimagine, and when necessary, completely rewrite. Start that business, take that trip, have that difficult conversation. Learn that instrument, challenge that assumption, question that habit, love that person. Self-forgiveness becomes possible for all the times of thinking one should have known better. Because here's the truth about aging. It's not a diminishment unless allowed to be. It can be an expansion, a deepening, a ripening into the most authentic expression. Not despite the years, but because of them. Because of all they've taught, all they've shown, all they've asked. If 60 teaches anything, it's this. The meaning of life is not predetermined. It's created, choice by choice, day by day. And it's never finished until the final page. Health isn't just physical, it's an ecosystem. Women must nurture all its dimensions. The mind and spirit need checkups as much as the body does. Many spend decades religiously attending mammogram appointments while ignoring growing depression, monitoring cholesterol but neglecting joy, tracking steps but not meaningful connections. At 60, health becomes a more holistic concern. Yes, take the medications, schedule the screenings, move the body. But also, feed curiosity. Protect sleep like it's sacred, because it is. Cultivate stillness in a world that profits from constant motion. Notice what replenishes rather than just depletes. Mental health isn't a luxury or an indulgence. It's the foundation everything else rests upon. If it's been last on the list for a lifetime, now is the time to prioritize it. Therapy isn't admitting defeat. It's claiming victory over inherited patterns and adaptive behaviors that may have helped with survival but now prevent thriving. The stigma around mental health support is fading, thankfully. But too many women of this generation still believe they should handle everything themselves, that needing help signals weakness rather than wisdom. The brain deserves the same care as the heart, the bones, the skin. Give it that gift. What should women know at 30, or 35, or right now? Consider sharing these thoughts. Someone younger is listening, and they need to hear these truths. And for those reading this before their 60th birthday, know this. There's no need to wait for some distant wisdom that will magically arrive with a particular age. Start living these truths now. Claim your voice, befriend your body, choose your people, and author your story today. Because 60 teaches the most valuable lesson of all. Regret comes not from the risks taken, but from the chances not taken. Not from the paths explored, but from the questions never asked. Not from the love given, but from the truth held back.